villains in the Thor movie, maybe the Guardians movie, about Null, the god of symbiotes, who, by the way, was first introduced in Donny Cates' Venom run. Very recent villain. You know, he didn't have a long history in the 70s or 80s. It was like the 2010s. The god of symbiotes. So we made joke after joke after joke, and the Venom 3 trailer shows us that it's all happening. Null is coming to the Sonyverse. We're going to see Null on the big screen, and it's confirmed. We saw this dude in the trailer, and I was saying Sony has a knack for just doing all these Spider-Man villains. Wrong place, wrong time. I don't think Null belongs in this movie, but at the same time, I'm very excited to see him on the big screen. It definitely amped up my excitement for Venom 3, which I previously was not very excited for. And I didn't like Venom 2 very much. I do like Venom 1. But this trailer looks fun, different, unique, kind of all over the place. Maybe in a good way, though. Maybe in a fun way that they have a story put together and they're not going to base it around a villain named Carnage that kind of all their attention was put to him instead of a good story. I think this is going to be better than Let There Be Carnage. Dave, what do you think?
I hope so, because I've gone back to rewatch that, and it's not very good, especially with Woody Harrelson cast as Carnage. Like, that could have been awesome, and you know they obviously didn't go full R with it. There's a lot of issues. So this one, I'm hoping it's better. From this newest trailer, it didn't get me like stoked, but it something triggered in my head like, all right, this is probably just a movie where you just go and you just enjoy it. You don't, look at things too closely or examine it or think about it too much. It seems like it's going to be a wild, wacky kind of movie. And the Noel thing is hilarious after all the talk. And I know we discussed that in a recent episode where we thought this actually, all jokes aside, we might actually get Noel here. And sure enough, there he was. We saw some cool imaging where it's like kind of flashing going towards him sitting there on his throne. And then we obviously get the long greasy-haired image of him. There's a lot of comic panels out there where it's kind of, that's how he looks. He's got this long, stringy hair. And according to Daniel RPK and something else named Rejected Scooper, never heard of it, so take it with a grain of salt. Daniel RPK shoots about 40% with his rumors. Norman Reedus is set to portray Noel, who is... Daryl in The Walking Dead.
Strange.
He's in a number of other things that my brain is blanking on.
It's not bad. It's just, plus anybody could play him if you're a decent actor. There's going to be a lot of makeup and possibly a lot of CGI. At least a lot of makeup. He's got like white skin, white hair, looks like a demon. He's bipedal, he's like a person, but like a wrangly, demonic looking person.
Ew, that's scary.
Right. As long as he leaves the southern accent behind for Noel, I think he's got a kind of low gravelly voice. So you take that accent out of there, I think it could work.
Is that accent his, or is it just for Walking Dead?
Well, Walking Dead it's thicker, but I think he still does have like a southern accent.
At most, he could have a British accent for Noel, but I wouldn't go past that.
Yeah, I'd keep it standard.
Now that I'm listening to it in my head, and I'd take that back.
Yeah. Yes, hello, Venom. I've been waiting for you.
Actually, I take it back again. That was good.
That sold you.
No, but because the last trailer we saw symbiotes flying down from space. Like, that's when we were like, oh, they're like coming from another planet. That could be Noel. That was the big sell. Before, it's just so crazy. I had no clues. There was no rumors even, and all of a sudden they drop a trailer showing you Noel's in the.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Out of nowhere.
Before we get on, it? Yeah, what do you think, Bob?
Yeah, it's a good villain to do for the final Venom movie as well, because if he's like the symbiote god, like who is left for him to face? So I do like that. And yeah, I agree with Dave. But just go to the theaters and have fun. Don't take things too seriously.
Absolutely. I don't think it's like so I don't see Venom fighting him. He's too powerful. He's the freaking god of symbiotes. Like I said, right. Villain, wrong place, wrong time. He's an Avenger level threat. The whole team of Avengers had a lot of trouble beating him. Yeah. I don't see, they'd have to really power him down. But he had trouble with these rogue symbiotes in
Yeah.
both Venom
Riot.
movies. Yeah, just regular symbiotes. So what is he going to do against the god? Maybe he's like a big threat that like the movie's based around preventing him from coming to Earth, and maybe they never fight. And if they do fight, they're going to really power him down.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. We'll get into our topic, but real quick, a little background on Noel. So Noel, like I said, god of symbiotes, but he's actually the dude who created the Necro Sword, which is what Gore the God Butcher uses to kill gods. Which, if you only saw the movies, he wasn't very god butchery, and that was a huge disappointment. Killed one single god, but he created the Necro Sword as a precursor to creating the perfect symbiote in his eyes. So he was trying to create symbiotes. He ended up creating the Necro Sword, left it on some planet, and that's where Gore picked it up and started using that. And that's just a little background there. So a little bit tied to Thor history with the Thor villain. And I think that's really cool. None of that's going to play into the movie. Just a little background.
Nice.
All right, let's get into it. Oh, I didn't write an intro down. Hello and welcome back to Why So Sidious, a nerd podcast, where we talk about Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, all the nerd stuff. Today we're covering episode 5 of The Rings of Power. We have covered all the episodes so far, 1, 2, and 3 in one episode for that premiere. We got episode 4 up. We also got some comic reviews up. Failsafe, Batman Failsafe. We might be doing Hush pretty soon. Pretty good Batman comic there. A ton more. Josh Whedon's X-Men. Flashpoint, a bunch of stuff. And we're going to be covering a Penguin comic coming up for that show. So look for that and our Weekend Geeks, of course, where we cover a bunch of nerd news, all the new nerd news coming out. And follow us on TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube. We're live on YouTube now. If you're not familiar with our YouTube presence, go subscribe to YouTube. Check us out live. See all the bloopers and mistakes and bathroom breaks. I don't know. You never know what you're going to get on YouTube. We have a support link in our podcast descriptions. If you scroll down, great way to help support the show. Little monthly $3, $5, I don't know. But it's going to help us, invest back into maybe equipment and, in the long run, quit our jobs and do this full time and be rich. All right, so let's get into it. Episode 5, Rings of Power. Lub, what did you think of the episode overall?
I think it might be my favorite because I am really enjoying the storyline behind the ring, especially with King Durin, and how what's going on with him. So I'm really intrigued by the storyline that's going on this season now, and I think it's really ramped things up because I wasn't here for episode 4, and it was definitely a slower episode. Like the Tom Bombadil, right? Is that his name?
Right. Yeah.
That kind of
real
stuff.
quick. What did you think of that stuff since you missed it?
I'm not familiar with his character at all, besides like references I've heard about him. So I thought he did a good job. I thought it was a cool, like wise, but like a nice wizard, wherever he is. And he had some good lines. The Galadriel stuff was cool. But it was a slower episode. I didn't like the Nori and Poppy stuff again.
Ugh.
So there were in Saruman. It's definitely Saruman. They definitely hinted at that again, saying when Tom said you're the Istar and the other one was sent first, so they both came from so. How do you feel about that?
I'm just hoping, like that video that Ben sent about them being blue wizards. I'm hoping they just are like an archetype for Gandalf and Sauron, and it's just the two blue wizards, and it's not Sauron himself. But
I definitely.
It's not looking good.
No, but I definitely like this episode more than the last one.
Okay.
I think it was my favorite episode too. It was really interesting. Everything seemed to be important, like pretty much every scene, even in Numenor. Like that was the first time I enjoyed our scenes in Numenor. A lot of drama, a lot of tension building up. It sucks seeing the Durins disagreeing again. We're not going to get a lot of agreement between those two anytime soon. We had a little window there where things were looking good. But let's talk about the Durins and all the stuff going on there. So the dwarves have their rings. King Durin is about, well, he puts it on, starts getting all twisty with it, right? He's getting greedy. He is talking about them needing to dig and find whatever they're trying to do. They're just trying to find the light at this point, right? To light up the inside of the mountain.
Yeah.
So it's like this ring is giving him the power to know where to dig. And Prince Durin is not cool with where he wants to dig. He's like, this is like the foundations of our mountain here. Sure enough, he digs in there, finds the light, but it keeps getting worse and worse. Like he imposes a tax on the coins spent for, what was it called, the ring tribute. And he's talking about the dwarves and a new age of power, all this stuff. Dave, what do you think of everything going on in the cave, Khazad-Dum?
Yeah, dude, talk about greedy. He tells all the other dwarves, hey, yeah, they made 7 of these rings here. I'll give them to you if you give me half of what's in each of your mine. Like, oh my God, dude. That's like, nobody's going to agree to that. So I don't know what that's going to come from. But I will say, so I kind of called it when we were talking about it last episode. I was saying, I think this ring, which, it wasn't a crazy guess. This ring was gonna turn Durin into greedy, dangerous, and he's gonna be driven to delve, and he's gonna be the actual cause of when they delve too deep, and we find out about the destruction and the Balrog and all that stuff. So my theory was it's gonna happen because King Durin's gonna wear this ring and get greedy, and that's pretty much exactly what just happened here. I liked it, but man, these rings are like the One Ring level of corruption, and which it makes sense though, because so we saw the elves do it and they're not corrupted, they're just being like spoken to, they're having some visions here and there, but they're not like being twisted by it. But as I said last episode, Sauron got his hand on the mithril when they made these dwarven rings, so he embedded darkness into it, and now we're seeing that corruption in King Durin, which is why it's so much more intense than the elves. But it's wild, like he freaks out when it's not on his hand, and he starts blaming the dwarf next to him that he took it. And he's like, you just set it down because you said your hand was heavy. Like, so he's losing it. It's a bummer that we're not going to get that relationship, like you said, between the two Durins. But I think it was written intriguing. He's definitely like a little scary. It makes you a little nervous watching this dude do stuff. The only issue I had with the dwarves thing was, bro, I just hate scenes where there's like an object rolling away from a character and it turns into this entire sequence of a preposterous path of where this object is going, and the character is running like a toddler and just like doesn't have the ability to speed up or bend down and grab the object. And so that whole thing with Disa, and then she goes in the water and she hears some ancient thing that ends up being the reason why Durin warns his dad about digging too much. That whole aspect felt like Leia running away from the bounty hunters in Kenobi to me. So that scene I didn't like, but the majority of it I enjoyed, the dwarf stuff. There's a lot of them in here.
Yeah.
Oh, and sorry, last thing. I like their look better than the Hobbit movies looks for the dwarves. Their pickaxes, everything, like it looks authentically like massive, like a dwarven tool. So I like the costume design and everything for them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I really like this story, and it's setting up the tragic end we know they come to, and this is kind of like the seeds where, King Durin, like, he switched up so fast, and he's like so chipper and like nice to his everyone. It's like, you're never like this, bro. You're so quiet and like relaxed, laid back, doesn't say much at all, and he's just like full of power and gloating and stuff. So
Well, on that point, don't you feel like in the real world, that's like those superficially happy people are the ones that are not the greatest people, but sometimes you come across the people that are like monotone and seem like they're not upbeat and happy, but they're actually super good people, and that's a common thread. So now that he's like getting all corrupted, he's actually coming across as a nicer person on the surface. I think that's pretty interesting. I wonder if they did that on purpose.
Right, and Disa swears to him to never wear a ring. You guys think he's gonna keep that promise?
That's a great question. I kind of think so, because he was reluctant from the very beginning. And there's probably going to be a damn scene where he has no other choice to put it on or something, though.
He's putting it on. It's happening. They showed that scene for a reason.
Right.
Put that in there.
He's gonna stand up with his homie Elrond. I think him and Elrond are gonna stand together. True, they're not gonna give into the corruption of the rings. They've got that bond going already. So I'm gonna go with Durin not accepting the ring, but I think it's gonna come very close. But he just seems to have a really good moral compass, man. And not I don't know about King Durin. Maybe he did too, and the ring's just so powerful. But I see this Durin. He just seems pure of heart as far as the dwarf goes, and I think he's gonna have the strength to overcome it. But dude, JD, by the way, while we're talking about the dwarves, you totally called that last episode. So
the riding thing
with the mithril. Yes, yeah. JD was like, doesn't that like remind you of the door at the Mines of Moria where Gandalf has to say melon?
I actually said ring. I said the writing on the ring, so I was a little off actually.
I thought you said on the door. I was like, yeah, well, because it was the door. They literally just showed that door in this episode, and that's going to be the entrance to the Mines of Moria. So I thought that was a dope little Easter egg.
That was an awesome Easter egg,
too, right? That scene.
No, that was on the theatrical
one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Balrog.
There's an extended
Version
part of that scene in the
that's
extended
right.
edition, and they're talking for like 10 minutes at the water while Gandalf's trying to figure it out, but they cut it down in the movie.
Okay. That's cool.
What is the ancient evil, though? Do you know with all your beautiful Lord of the Rings knowledge?
I'm pretty sure it's the Balrog that's down there.
In the water,
so
though? Or you think
Well,
it's like,
water.
I mean, the water, I was thinking it's the Balrog, such a massive like growl that the vibrations were affecting the water. But if it's not, I think it'll be the creature we saw in the Fellowship, which was that not kaiju, kraken. That kraken looking type of. Yeah, Godzilla's gonna pop out. He's ready to go. No, I think it's going to be that kraken type creature that we saw attack the Fellowship when they tried to get into the mines there, because it's obviously located in that area, and it was pretty massive. But I think there's a lot of ancient evil in there.
That makes a lot of sense, but I think I would love it if it's the Balrog. That'd be so sick. The thing
Well,
that
they already
we
teased
thought
it.
killed Gandalf. Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
Season 1.
yeah.
I don't think I could ever be a dwarf. I couldn't live underground like that. I'd feel so like claustrophobic all the time.
Oh yeah, no, not for me.
People need the sun, man. You need the sun to function, bro.
But
What is it?
Just that weight, massive weight on top of you all the time. You know.
I'd feel trapped. Yeah, I'd wake up and be like, I need to get some fresh air. I'm claustrophobic. Oh shit! It's a 3-hour hike to get some fresh air. Did you? Oh gosh, what was I just gonna say? Well, I was gonna say also, King Durin had a line about that where he said like the people on the surface are slaves to the sun. And
Yeah.
blah blah blah. But
We bring it to us.
Asshole.
yeah.
I love the sun.
What was I gonna say though? Ancient evil. The
Well,
dwarves digging it out. Yeah.
While you're thinking of that, King Durin picks 7 emissaries, 7 dwarves, to go take their rings back to their masters, which I guess, does that mean there's just a ton of dwarf civilizations outside of Khazad-Dum? Or do you think they were...
Yeah. So, like, I remember what I was going to say too. But yeah, so in The Hobbit, there's the dwarves of, is it Erebor? I think it's the dwarves of Erebor, and that's the main unit that goes to take back the mountain from the dragon. And then during that time, there's the Hill Dwarves clan. I forgot what the name of theirs was, but there was another clan that came from another mine, and they came, the Iron Hills. So there's a bunch of different dwarf settlements across Middle Earth.
And I'm surprised the emissaries came. Like, do you think the dwarves are just so stubborn? They'd be like, I ain't going for this. I don't know what's happening here.
Well, and they all try to grab it, and he goes, hold on, these are for your masters. You know, he does the whole thing, and then he needs half of their mountain. But also, there should only be 6, because there's 7 rings for the dwarves, so I don't know why. So he said there's 7, but he's wearing one, so I don't know.
I wonder if that was a
exactly
mistake.
how that one works. Yeah,
Stupid.
You messed up. You done messed up, Amazon. But before I forget, so the one thing I was thinking, we're talking about the Doom of Khazad-Dum, the ancient evil. They delve too far, you know. They bring this destruction upon the dwarves, but that doesn't happen for like 1,000 years from now. Like, we're in the Second Age. In the Third Age, Gimli knows Khazad-Dum to be a place of light still. And then he goes on the quest, and when he comes back, it's a tomb. And he's like, no, you know, he breaks down. So it's not like Khazad-Dum has to somewhat survive a little longer than in this series. So I'm curious how they're going to work that. Or maybe they just totally change it. They've changed stuff before, I guess.
Good point. I would not like them to change it since it's lore according to a Lord of the Rings movie, as opposed to lore
True.
in the Silmarillion or something like that.
And that's true because they're going off the books and the appendices. So yeah, you're right. They probably won't change. I hope they don't. That's a pretty bad aspect.
Yeah, but that does lead me to wonder because I was looking forward to that, not considering the timeline, and I was like, "This is awesome." We're seeing what led to that destruction, and when Gimli, all that made him so depressed about finding a bunch of just a tomb of dwarves. But yeah, that wouldn't make sense. I was looking forward to it though. I thought that was sick.
Straight up.
King Doran, another thing he does, he like in his process of going crazy, this dude's like, look, there's these restrictions. We're not supposed to dig like that deep or go down there. And he's like, who the hell wrote these restrictions? He's like, you did. You did. And when he lost his ring, he's like, well, did you take my ring? No, you put it down. Like he's going crazy.
He was about to call it my precious, I felt like. When he looked
Yeah.
over at it, he's like, oh yeah, it's still there.
Yeah. Anything else in Khazad-Dum with the dwarves? Aside from, he goes and visits Celebrimbor. We'll get to that.
Doran
No,
got the
I
collar
mean-
back. He's Prince again.
Yeah, he's the prince again. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
that was cool. All right, let's move on to Celebrimbor and Anatar over there in Aregion. So Celebrimbor doesn't want to make rings for men. He's saying they are too dangerous, too corruptible. Anatar uses Numenor as an arguing point, saying they teeter between glory and ruin, but some men in that darkness step forth and shine. So we need to be very selective with these men. And we're going to give them 9, baby. The elves, who are most reliable, let's give them the least amount. Dwarves, second most reliable, let's give them 7. But the men, the least reliable, let's give them the most rings. So we're going to go ahead and pick 9 men. Celebrimbor still says no, but Anatar says he's just going to go make it himself.
Yeah.
And
I didn't think he would just let him do it.
Right? He totally
I
just
didn't
let him
think
do
he just
it.
Let him use his workers and his workbench and
His
everything. I was
forge.
like, wait, what? He's just letting him do it?
yeah. Like, oh, you got me with that one. All right, you win. But I loved this part. He's doing his own thing, and then this girl, Merdania, goes invisible and starts going crazy, like the One Ring. And I thought that was freaking awesome. But then she recalls while she's invisible. We've seen it in Lord of the Rings. Everything gets all foggy and black and white and all this crazy stuff. But in that state of consciousness, she sees a tall figure with skin made of flames who reeked of death. And she says that she believes this figure has been among them the whole time. That was freaking awesome. We know she's talking about Sauron there, Anatar. And then Anatar just starts manipulating the shit out of her, like, hey, no. Let's stop talking about that. Just look at us now. Nothing's going wrong here now. Look around. Things seem pretty good right now.
We're good.
And they also say that the reason that the rings acted like that, Celebrimbor asks, and they say they added more mithril. But yeah, what'd you guys think of that scene, Dave?
Ooh, that was awesome. Yeah, I love the way how she described the unseen world. Exactly how the scenes are shot with Frodo in the trilogy. So they really, like she said, it was misty and cloudy and shadows. And it was a perfect description. And yeah, I loved the description of the being, how she just the stinks of death, eyes that were pitless and eternal, all that like very imaginative, vocabulary for describing this being. And it made me feel like I was reading a Lord of the Rings book and getting, it wasn't at the level of Tolkien, but it was still good. Like it made me feel like we were in the world of Tolkien while she described that. It's obviously Sauron. He convinces him it's Celebrimbor, which is hilarious. Dude, I love this whole sequence though. I love the rings, the 9, like, oh, that was so sick. Obviously, they're eventually going to be Sauron's top lieutenants. The Nazgul, the Witch King of Angmar and his 8 Nazgul, which is black speech for ring wraiths. So whether you want to call them the Nazgul, the 9, ring wraiths, black riders, they have a lot of names. But they're one of my favorite aspects of the trilogy. So I'm stoked to that we're going to get the origins and see which men get chosen. And I love that argument because we've seen heroes of men throughout, the story of Middle Earth, and we think of Aragorn and Elendil, I think would fall into that category, and others. So it's going to be tragic if they pick Elendil and he accepts. I really hope that's not the case,
Ooh.
because if he ended up being one of the 9, that would be brutal. Obviously, I think, well, we can get into that later. But yeah, this whole thing with the elves, I thought it was awesome.
How about you, Leb?
Yeah, I'm loving this too. When Celebrimbor says, because he's definitely onto him. You know, he's getting more suspicious by the second. He says, sowing seeds in others' minds and convincing that the fruit is of their own thought. He's like,
Exactly what
you
he
know,
does.
like, yeah, like exactly what he's doing. But he's still like, it's weird because I feel like he has a sense that it's Sauron, or a sense that he's not who he says he is. Even Durin's asking him about it. Like, are you sure you know this guy like you think you do? So
Right.
he's having all these second thoughts, but then at the end he's like, it's too late. Like, there's nothing I can do. And when he asks like what went wrong, he says, did you do something to the dwarf rings? And he's like, no, we did. Like when you sent that letter, you lied
Nice.
to Gilgalad. And he's like, and it kind
It
of
got
makes
him.
sense. It's a
It kind of
good
worked. Yeah.
excuse. Like, okay,
It worked for me.
and
Yeah.
it convinces him to be like,
Yeah.
okay, we have to do it again for the men now, but actually do it right. Like, I can't go out on that. That can't be my last forge, session. So you do it again.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I was gonna say I thought it was a good argument by Sauron, and it seemed to convince him, like, oh shoot, you're right. This was made under false pretenses. We lied to do this. But it's still, that to me didn't entirely convince me on why he was like, okay, I'll make the other 9 because of that. I could see
Yeah.
the shame in it and everything he felt, but when he was like, hey everybody, so I committed treason against the High King Gilgalad, so we're making the 9. It was like, oh, that kind of seemed like,
Yeah, like,
that
whoa.
seemed a bit sudden. I thought it was a good argument, but it seemed a little not enough for him to just break this thing that he's been refusing for so long, So that was a little flimsy for me there.
I like the stakes. Like you could see, like this dude is realizing that he might have just given like a world-ending power to all these people. It's like, okay, I gave them to the elves, that worked out fine. I just gave 7 to the dwarves, and they're already coming back with complaints. Like, what kind of destruction did I really just create? A lot of tension there.
The actor who plays Celebrimbor, he does a good job at almost like the fear and panic in his eyes when he's like realizing these certain things. I really like him. I think
Agreed.
Anatar's wig is pretty awful, but Celebrimbor, I think they did Celebrimbor good now. I wasn't sold on him entirely in the first season, but I like him.
Yeah. Then we get scenes with Durin coming over there, like I said, to complain about the rings. And he's like, dude, are you sure you know this guy? This Anatar. And, I figured that should really trigger what Galadriel said to him way earlier. Like, she said this, now things are going wrong here, and he's still, at most, he's suspicious. When really, you shouldn't even invited him in after what Galadriel said. And now you got Durin coming over there talking about it.
Right. He's definitely not an innocent accomplice in this.
Yeah,
whole
at this
thing that's
point.
going on. He's not innocent anymore.
Yeah.
He's not, like, he's really easy to work. I mean, you could tell this guy anything and he'll buy it.
Yeah. Also, what did you guys like so I know we barely saw King Gilgalad, but he had these crazy visions of like an earthquake and then like a dried up lake full of dead fish and Sauron. He seems like he's going through it, and then that elf chick tells him, Galadriel was wrong. We need to march on Mordor, and Elrond's like, nope, actually she was right. We need to get our ass over to Eregion. That whole thing was interesting, though, his visions and stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm intrigued.
And it was actually Elrond that came and told him, like,
Yeah.
Galadriel was right. We should have marched on Eregion. So that was cool. Elrond had like 2 scenes. One of him, it was like 5 seconds of him sprinting through the woods, and it was like a super abrupt scene in
That was
between
like 1 second, I think.
for sure, like a
I didn't
couple.
see it.
No, it was like right after the Gilgalad visions, and then it moved back onto Durin or maybe
Yeah.
Numenor. But it was just like, okay, we got a glimpse of him sprinting through the woods. That was it.
It's a very interesting approach they're taking this season, where half the stories are one episode and then half the stories
Yeah.
are the other episode, and they kind of do something at the end. Like, even when Game of Thrones was at its widest and everything was going on, like, yeah, maybe one character missed an episode here and there, but like doing half and half it works though. But
Right.
it does kind of, I mean, no Nori or the Stranger this week, so I guess that was good.
And Theo. So
And
shoot, this
Theo.
might have been my favorite episode now that I think about it.
But less Galadriel as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
a little bit of a gripe because those stories that I don't like seem to be shoved into their own episodes, so that makes the whole episode really slow
It
for
just
me.
weighs it all down. Yeah.
Yeah,
They should have mixed
You
it
need
up
to
a
have
little.
really good episodes with a sprinkle of Nori and the Stranger. Like
And
at the
Adar.
beginning. Like at the
Adar's in
beginning.
those
Get it out of the
episodes.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
it's like Game of Thrones books. Remember the last couple books?
Just
Like
split
the
it.
whole entire book was based on these characters, and the whole entire next book was based on other characters.
Right. I think
I don't
4
e-
is Westeros, and then 5 is like a surrounding
Essos
Westeros.
and
yeah,
some
And
other. Yeah.
the wall.
Those are by far my least favorite of George Martin's books. His first 3 were bangers, but those last 2 were kind of hard to read. Kind of a
I
chore.
have to go back.
Yeah, no, you're right for sure. He rambles a lot more as he writes.
Yeah, I meant to ask you this,
known.
Dave, a little bit not off topic necessarily, but Lord of the Rings book. So you read the whole book, and is it like worth it? Is it super good compared to the movies? I have all those books in one book there, but I mean, like I haven't done it yet. I've read like 100 pages of it, but how is it
So-
compared?
So I read the physical books when I was a kid. I don't think I actually read Return of the King as a kid. But so most recently I did audiobooks with them. But I think I really enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of cool information that I either forgot or just wasn't aware of. There's a lot of extra backstory to some of this stuff. The descriptions are amazing. I mean, Tolkien writes he paints a good picture in your mind with a lot of stuff. So outside of the amount of songs that are in there, which if you're reading it physically is not a big deal because you're not
Easy to
listening to Andy
skip.
Serkis singing it. Exactly.
yeah.
No offense, Andy. But I think it's worth it personally. I really enjoy it.
Oh, before I skip every single song, is there any single song that has necessary information?
See, that's the thing. There are a few, like, they're historic songs and stuff.
it.
And some of them are written well, though. It's not, again, it's a small excerpt in the book itself. So, but some of them you can tell. You can tell right when the song starts whether it's going to be important or not, pretty much. But it's half and half, probably.
Yeah. Anything else on Celebrimbor and Anatar over there in Eregion?
Yeah, I kind of have a thought. So,
Uh-oh.
because Celebrimbor's on to Sauron, Durin's obviously on to him, Galadriel's on to him. So, how long do you think he can stay with Celebrimbor? Like, obviously he's gonna watch the 9 rings get completed, but do you think he could stay there after that? And the one ring that rule them all. So, is he gonna have to dip again after these men get the rings, and then Galadriel shows up and he gets out of there and then has to come back,
I think next episode is when the fireworks are going to go down there, because I actually did watch the little sneak peek into next episode,
forgot.
and you got a little attacking on Eregion, and you see Anatar walking out looking pretty pissed, like he's about to go fight some people. It looks like his story in Eregion might be coming to a head, but
Okay.
is he supposed to be creating the One Ring there, you think? Or is he going to create that somewhere else?
I feel like you have to wait for that. Like, don't do all the rings,
Yeah,
right?
you can't, huh?
Let's wait. Let's do season 3 for that one or something.
I agree.
Yeah, well, we got 5 seasons coming around this or something. But no, so I think JD's right, and we saw that image in the trailer with all the explosions, and he's walking off in the center of the screen. And so I haven't watched the Next On thing, but I know what clip you're talking about. And I agree. I think in the chaos of this battle, he's going to start getting found out as it's leading into this battle. And maybe like once Celebrimbor, it clicks in his head, they're going to get hit by a siege. Chaos is going to erupt, and that's when he's going to slip out of there with the 9 that they just created, is my guess. I think he's taking them. But I do know, unless they're changing lore, he did not create the One Ring in Eregion. He creates it in the fires of Mount Doom. So he's got to go back to Mordor to create the One Ring.
Duh.
Yeah, I guess that's not a spoiler. I guess that's a pretty big part of the lore.
Yeah, right.
But that's why it has to be thrown in there, because that's where it was created. So, but yeah, I agree with JD. If this is the Siege of Eregion episode, I think this is the last episode we'll see him interact with Celebrimbor.
Yeah.
And Galadriel's gonna be right there too, and she's gonna miss him again.
What did I tell you, bud? I told you not to treat with him, and here he is.
He's like, yeah. So I actually made 16 more rings.
I made 16 more rings.
You told me to stop. I
16,
made a lot
bro.
more, so
We made 3, yeah, 16. Like, I think you went a little overboard there, Caliburn.
oh man.
Holy crap.
All right, let's get to Numenor. So the first scene we get is Keeman, dorky little prick, talking to Elendil about how he's not the captain anymore. Well, actually, the other dude, what's his name?
Farazan?
No, not Farazan.
Farazan's his dad, Valendil.
Valendil tells him, like, yeah, dude, they kind of stripped you of your rank. Anybody who was siding with the Princess Regent is, like, stripped of their rank. And so he's, like, walking along. Keeman's pissed because people start, like, thanking Elendil for being his captain, calling him by his captain rank and all this stuff. So Keeman's pissed. Freaking asshole. He's like the worm that you accidentally cut in half when you're digging in the dirt. Except with the worm, you actually feel really bad, and you're like, dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there. But kid Keeman, not so much. That's what I would like to see happen to him anyway. But the big dickhead thing he does is the Numenorians are in there doing a little funeral. It's pretty important to them, pretty sacred. I mean, it's a freaking funeral no matter what. And he bursts in with the guards and says he has orders from the kings to condemn the shrine. And he freaking does it with a smile on his face. Like, he's happy to do this. And he even breaks that relic with this old dude that's staying there. He wants to finish the process. And he picks it up, hands it to him, seemingly, and then just freaking drops it and breaks it. It just makes you so angry, so disrespectful, frustrating. But then Elendil just nails him with a hook, drops him. That was very satisfying. Love to see that. And oh my god, dude, I did not expect this scene to go where it went. Like, I thought it was going to be a couple punches, they were going to get arrested, but after that punch, Keeman has Elendil as like, guards, hold him. And he's just about to hit him in the face, free punch. And then Valendil catches the punch. Super sick. They fight. Ends up breaking Keeman's arm. That was very satisfying. And I thought it was going to end there. I thought he was going to get arrested and it was going to be annoying for a couple episodes, but after Valendil walks away, Keeman stabs him in the back. Kills our boy Valendil, like one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
I fucking hate this guy, dude. But that was a very Game of Thronesy scene, right? It was unexpected. It was a big death. Holy cow. So, Dave, what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, it was Game of Thrones, especially with the transition of power and the soldiers struggling to, decide who they're going to stay loyal to and all that. So I enjoyed that aspect of Numenor here, the politics to it. Even Farazan's little discussion with his son, where he's basically like dreams of bigger things than being the king. And I think he's definitely going to be a Nazgul because he's craved for power and, other stuff. So he's a little fat, but I guess when you become a ring wraith and a shadow dweller, it doesn't really matter. So that, I like the whole setup of this. I hate Elendil's daughter. Like, I'm so glad Elendil kind of basically told her off and was like, yeah, you're a disgrace. Because she freaking sucks. Like, her and Theo should go off on adventures somewhere off into another show. Like, oh, my brother's dead. I guess I'll betray my dad to feel better about things, you donkey. God.
Is that it? I'm wondering, is that all that happened? Like, because she didn't want them to go?
Yeah, because Muriel looked into the Palantir, and that's why she felt they should go to Middle-earth, and her brother's dead. So she blames Muriel and her love for the elves. So now she just screws over her dad, her best friend, which that was super satisfying too, where Valendil was like, yeah, I think you just made it pretty clear who your friends are. Like, it's like, yeah, good, you suck. Like, go away. Yeah, man, that fight in the funeral, whatever that was, the sept or the funeral part, God, that was brutal, man. I just hate that guy so much. But I will say, I wasn't feeling good when he broke his arm and he walked off. When it was the way it was shot with him walking off like that, I was like, he's gonna kill him. Like, turn around. I don't get though. Elendil's staring at him the whole time. How did he not see homeboy get up and pick the sword up and then walk behind him and he didn't say anything? Like, he was off to the side with his arm broken, and Elendil is staring directly in that direction. He somehow gets up with a broken arm, picks the sword up, and stabs him in the back without Elendil. So I was legitimately pissed. That scene happened, and I was like, not happy, like very, very unhappy right now. But frustrating.
Yeah, that was a good way to catch heat because he's like the most hated person on the show now, and that was fast because he was always the douchebag, but now it's like, I want to see this guy die.
Yeah.
They tried to light the boat on fire last season, remember? And Isildur was sleeping on the boat, and he had to save his life. Like this guy's always sucked.
That's right. And he was trying to like give some advice to Pharazôn, or like that first scene they were in, and he basically says, "Did you ever tell you your mom said you were gonna like die a brutal death one day?" Like, whoa, what a response to your son.
You know,
Hell
go do
yeah.
this mission, and maybe I'll tell you how you die.
Yeah. Holy crap.
He deserved it.
Wild. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad he gets abused by his dad. What?
I have a. How would you guys feel as Elendil as Balin Skull?
Oh.
It's random.
Interesting.
I know he doesn't
It
look
is
the
pretty
exact
random,
same. He
but-
doesn't look the same, but I feel like
He can carry the presence, I think, possibly.
right because I just love his character in this show, and it kind of reminded me like of a Balin Skull type of badass.
He's pretty
give him
serious
white hair.
and calculated.
He's skinnier though.
He
Yeah,
is skinnier.
you
Not
could-
that doesn't have that jaw.
But
Actors would
Dang.
love the idea of gaining weight instead of losing weight.
yeah, it's probably more appealing. Yeah, I mean, gravitas and stuff, he could probably pull it off.
Hell yeah. Cast him as Hal Jordan. You want that old, serious...
There it is.
So with the grizzled, serious Hal.
No. I'm still kind of salty they're going that route with Hal. That's okay.
That Numenorian Civil War is going to be crazy though. You guys think that happens like this season? Think shit boils over by the end? Maybe that's like a finale thing.
I hope it's pushed off. I want them to focus on Eregion, Adar, and Sauron. But I think it'll definitely come next season. I think we're going to see the fall of Numenor in these 5 seasons. So,
Yeah.
You know, it's probably... The rings are probably what's going to push them to that level of like a violent civil war. I hope so. You know, instead of being such its own isolated story, I would love it to bleed more into the main story that we're also interested
Right.
in.
I think it will. And, I mean, Sauron obviously is going to be looking for men who are easily corruptible, not what he said to Celebrimbor. He's going to see this Pharazôn dude. Well, you already seen him. He's already been to Numenor. So he's
best of
probably
them.
already got a few ideas of, like, who he's going to give the ring to. And
Oh, yeah.
Pharazôn would poster boy for the ring candidate, or one of the 9. But
Too bad Waldrick's dead. He was probably on the list.
that a loser.
I could still see Theo getting one somehow.
Ugh.
My God.
I know he kind of in episode 4, him and Arondir kind of made up. It seemed like once he saved him, but
Yeah.
oh, how about, that Barrow White scene? That was kind of crazy. I know that was last episode.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
I feel like they just killed like 4 of them, and then the rest disappeared. It didn't seem like they actually, because there was like 20 of them surrounding him, and then they like killed like 5 of them, and then the rest just
They killed 5 elves, you mean?
no
Or
the
The
Barrow
Barrow
Whites.
Whites.
Yeah.
when they
I
took
also
the
expect
weapons,
there's probably a shit ton of Barrow Whites out there. Right? That probably wasn't just...
Yeah,
who
they just
knows?
come from the dead men that are resurrected. I mean, they're kind of like whites in a way from Game of Thrones. So, yeah, I think there's
That's cool.
still
They
could be
look cool.
more. Yeah, they looked
Yeah.
great. Yeah, the VFX looked amazing.
Anything else in Numenor you want to talk about?
It did show Pharazôn looking at the Palantir, so I don't know what's going to come from that, but it was definitely a foreshadowing of something. So maybe that's the way he communicates with Sauron.
I was
and
gonna
ends
say.
up- yeah.
He's giving him shit and is throwing different visions that he should see.
You say maybe that's how he commutes with Sauron. Is he a big player in like maybe the Silmarillion or something? Pharazôn?
No, I'm just I think he might have been like Valandil is made up for this show. I don't know if Pharazôn is in the Silmarillion. But I just mean in general of maybe that's how Sauron hunts him down because I think he's going to be a ring wraith. So I was just saying maybe that's, Sauron communicates with him through there and goes and seeks him out and gives him a ring. I don't know.
Dude, how sick would it be if we get names tied to the Nazgul? So then you go back and watch Fellowship and you like,
They're like, oh
You know-
shit, there's Pharazôn.
or
Hey, look at that fat ass.
like you wouldn't be able to identify them individually, but it'd be cool to know every one of their histories. That'd be so
Right.
sick.
Oh. Oh,
the-
no. Firezone was a major character in the... I'm going to stop reading that.
Ooh.
I don't remember him at all from the Silmarillion. Interesting.
I know, yeah. Don't Google Celebrimbor either. I didn't see anything, but it's like it always pops up with, I'll say death. It always pops
Yeah.
up with anything you type in. It's death. It's like I'm not looking that part up.
But at least that's the Silmarillion. He wasn't real... Well, he was mentioned in some of the appendices and stuff, but I think they can change certain things with that.
How long do you think the men have the rings for a while before they're completely turned into ring wraiths in the Nazgul, right? They don't just immediately are completely corrupted, right? Like maybe they pass it down a couple generations, or are they the ones?
I think they end up being the ones. I would imagine if King Durin's already this corrupted by it,
That's true.
and men are even more corruptible, I have a feeling it's going to be like instant.
All right.
Yeah.
That makes more sense, anyways.
All right, well, let's jump to the end scene. We got an army of orcs descending upon a Region. That's exciting, dude. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do there. And, what's his name? Why did I just forget his name?
Adar?
No, not Adar. Our boy in the Fellowship and all that stuff. Elrond rushes to Gil-galad, says Galadriel was right. They got to go send their armies to a Region. Gil-galad said that's not possible. They can't. He talks about they can't defeat Adar and Sauron. And he was getting convinced to send his armies like ASAP. That girl was telling him like we got to go now. So did he send his armies to Mordor already? Because we didn't get any kind of like confirmation or a scene at
Sounded
all.
like that.
It sounded
That's
like
what I
it,
thought
though.
he was going to say.
it's too
That's
late.
not possible because I already sent them off. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh my God, tell us that then. We're just sitting here like you didn't give us a
Yeah.
scene. Show us a 5-second scene of them marching to Mordor or something, or tell us. Just say they went to Mordor, but it's kind of up in the air
Yeah.
at this point, but we could assume.
I think maybe it's going to be a situation like the Vale, the Knights of the Vale. Everything's Game of Thrones related. The Knights of the Vale showing up to the Battle of the Bastards. I think Elrond's maybe going to go chase down the army and catch up to them and redirect them to a Region. And when all hope seems lost, the elf army rolls up.
Good call.
That's my guess.
Another Game of Thrones reference. Is there any way
Keep going.
to carry a message other than by foot in Lord of the Rings? Like,
Where the
train
ravens?
No
they can't
ravens
train
there.
some birds to send a message. Like, the only way to do it is by foot and hope that this person makes it there alive. Like what already happened
Oh,
before.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
we were griping about that. They just sent two people on that major important of a message that, hey, Sauron's returning. They just sent two people and called it a day. Like, maybe send an entire army to deliver that message. But yeah, it's a good point. I can't really think of a lot of times ravens. Like, even in Gondor and Rohan, they light a bunch of fires on top of a massive mountain range to
Yeah.
connect to them to be like, hey, we need help. Like, you could have sent a bird, but yeah, that's a very good question.
And this universe takes it a tad more fantastical. Like they got
Yeah.
these eagles and stuff, but they still don't do ravens.
That's a really good question. I'll look into that.
But anyway, we catch up with Adar and Galadriel. We saw Galadriel captured at the end of episode 4. And basically, it boils down to Adar offers her an alliance, against the common enemy being Sauron. And Galadriel looked like the look in her eyes completely switched. Like she was like, oh, this might actually be okay. And that's where the episode leaves off. So that's fine. Story-wise, it sounds like a lot of fun to dive into that kind of situation. So
she's gonna get her own battalion of orcs to lead into a Region. She's gonna fight against the elves.
And does that mean Adar knows that Sauron is in a Region?
I think he's pretty confident about that. And I forgot why, but something happened that was like, other than Halbrand writing there and saying, hey, he just created rings with Celebrimbor or something. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was enough. But I thought he like had a feeling for some reason he was still over there. But it was kind of weird how this episode ended the exact same way the last episode ended. Galadriel's holding a weapon at Adar, and Adar speaks a couple sentences to her. Last time it was in Elvish, this time it was like literally the exact same thing. Galadriel brandishes the weapon, he stops her, says something, she stops, cuts to credits. I was like, that's back-to-back episodes. But I will say, he was only there for about 7 seconds, but that's probably the most I've been accustomed to this new Adar. with the new actor. I think he's growing on me a little bit, and I've been waiting for this conversation. I think this is going to be a really good scene between the two as they discuss this possible alliance. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah, next episode looks like it's going to be a banger.
Yes. Episode 6. We got 3 left. Finish
I hope
strong,
it's-
man. Let's get a dope 3-episode arc here.
Wasn't episode 6 the Battle of the Southlands, season 1?
Yep.
Or was that
it was
7?
the best episode.
So hopefully
was 6.
this, it's 6, right? Okay, yeah. So hopefully
Yeah.
this is like that, where it's the Battle of Eregion, and this entire episode takes place there. You know, the whole battle, all the different sides. You have
Yeah.
Galadriel, Adar, Celebrimbor, Anatar.
I will say, and it's not even a complaint because I still love it, but it's funny that like all the big episodes, who are the orcs attacking next? What city's gonna have a bunch of orcs running at them?
So you can kill them.
Yeah. So what is gonna happen? A bunch of orcs are running down, and then you got freaking white light Galadriel with them going to attack
Yeah.
Eregion. I wonder. I mean, I'm sure.
See her doing that though.
I would bet she's gonna have a conversation with Adar, like, let me go first, let me try to talk to him,
Sneak
figure it
in.
out, and
Yeah.
then the orcs will probably jump the gun and go attack anyway, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna strike a bargain. I think they're gonna get close, kind of like Ahsoka and Maul, where Maul almost gets Ahsoka there, but then he says one wrong thing, and it's gonna click in Galadriel's head, like, I can't do this or something. Yeah, so I think they're gonna get close, but I don't think they're gonna fight together. Oh, it is Adar. I don't know why the orc. I've been calling him Adar all last season and this season, but I got in my head from listening to the orcs say it. I've been calling him Adar this episode, but says it's
Jeremy
pronounced
Adar.
Adar. So
Yeah. That's why my name's like that, people. It's not weird. Yeah, so super exciting. I think next episode's going to be a banger. Like I said, I can't wait. It's building up. This last episode was fine. This episode is better, in my opinion. The first 3 were solid. So I think the tension is really building. The story's coming to a close as far as the season goes. And we should see some fireworks here pretty soon. And we're going to see Elendil, I think, in prison. We're probably going to get some annoying scenes with him just all fucked up. And hopefully soon a breakout scene where he beats some people's ass. Hopefully including
His daughter's
Keeman.
probably gonna break him out. His
You think?
daughter's gonna see like what's.
I have no faith in that.
I mean, it kind of makes
Nice
sense though,
one.
because after the scene they had, and she kind of sees maybe the turning to the dark side wasn't the right thing to do, and comes back.
That would be like his person on the inside, but he does have the support of a bunch of the civilians
true.
too.
Hell of people are faithful to him.
And the queen still is.
Yeah. I mean, she can't see, so she won't be able to find his cell to let him out, but, maybe she can do something. I hope his daughter runs into the hill troll and becomes a new collection on his belt.
Whoa.
Hell yeah.
Is it too far? Too strong?
Not at all.
Okay, good.
All right, any other thoughts?
I'm excited. That's all I can say.
I think we need a strong 3 episodes to end this season to beat last season. I think it's still in the air. I don't think they've locked it down yet. So we need a strong finish here.
For sure.
Crazy.
All right, that wraps it up for Rings of Power episode 5. Thanks for tuning in. Check out our content. Follow us again, Why So Sidious Pod. I don't even think I mentioned that at the beginning, but it's Why So Sidious Pod on all the socials, Instagram,
Good.
X, TikTok, YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.